So, this one's going to be about habits of highly successful people, as the article states, and there's going to be more after the intro, as always. It's going to be about morning habits. It's going to be about just in general habits. It's not going to be about morning routines, which I've been talking about before as well, but it's going to be just regular daily rituals, as they also say, but I would actually say like habits. So yeah, all the necessary links should be down in the description, so please check them out if you're searching for something, whether it be another social media site, whether it be something else. I don't know, just search in the description or in the show notes if you're on a podcast, and if you're in need of something, then please hit me up on social media and or in the comments, and I'm gonna just probably reply in like an hour or something like that. But yeah, without wasting any time, let's actually head into the article. And as you can see on the left side of the screen, it is an article by the lifehack.com site, but I'm not quite sure. The link to this article is anyway going to be down in the description, and it was published on November the 27th, 2019, so it is a fairly new one, and it was written by Dan Matthews, CPRP, which is a certified psychosocial rehabilitation practitioner. Yeah, I've learned something again. So, I've highlighted the certain parts of the whole article, and I went through it yesterday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record it yesterday, so the episode, but it's actually a pretty great article, and I think that I've also been able to come up with some additional ideas that are not in the article, kind of obviously maybe, but I'm actually in a really, really, really good mood. I really am, which makes me really happy, because yesterday's day wasn't as cool. I was a little bit pissed off by circumstances, which is something that's really fucked up indeed. I shouldn't be. I really, really, really shouldn't be, and I'm gonna work on that, and I'm gonna talk about it in the future as well, probably. In this context, it must mean that successful people have adopted daily practices that make it possible for them to bring their dreams to life, as they say in the article. And I also think that it is the case. There is a reason why some people are successful and some people are not. Still, it really highly depends on what you think is successful. A lot of people might think, okay, success is about money, it is about being rich, it's about being famous, and all those things, but it's not necessarily going to mean that for everyone. Some people think about happiness in terms of, well-being, actually, and having a family, and actually having quite a lot of kids, and all those things. So think about that as well, which is actually a pretty great transition to tweaking them if necessary, which is something also in the article, which means that if you just see one of these habits or see one of these daily practices or rituals, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it the exact same way, doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You should really adapt that to your lifestyle and your life and how you think about life and how you think about certain things and whatnot. So you probably have to adopt them first of all, and then tweak them. So yeah, the first one, waking up early. One highly successful person wakes up before 6 a.m. is Apple's CEO Tim Cook, who starts his day at 3:45 a.m., 45 a.m. It's a little bit early, to really be honest, and I'm also not quite sure, even though there is a reference there and a source for this sentence, I'm not quite sure if it is actually the case, but at my point of view, waking up early is actually a pretty great way to being able to waste quite a lot of time. I am wasting quite a lot of time, as I've actually seen it over the past few weeks and whatnot, and therefore it's because of that, it has also been one of the reasons why I've just started to wake up really, really early in the weekends as well, or on the weekends as well, which means today it's been 6 a.m. just because I haven't slept the whole last week quite. Normally I'm just trying also to get up at 5 a.m., which is actually also when I'm getting up during the week. So then I'm actually also having some sort of a rhythm. I really believe that waking up every single day at the kind of exact same time is really, really good, because your body adopts that kind of rhythm, this kind of cycle and whatnot. It's pretty good for your body, at least as I'm thinking about it. It also gives you the chance to dedicate your first conscious hours to personal development in the form of journaling or other creative projects. It just gives you quite a lot of time, because you can then do just something which you wouldn't have been able to do if you would just be getting up way, way, way later. because you're just having an additional 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 hours that you can use for something. And so you can totally use them for personal development or personal improvement, but also for doing sports. If this is actually something that's not in your daily kind of schedule. And all those things, like for all those things you're not having or seem to not have time for, which is, by the way, total bullshit quite, because if it is about preferences, I'm sorry, and it is also about just making time for that. It is not really about, the thing is, I'm gonna now quote somehow, not really quote, but somehow talk about Seth Godin, and he said that you're literally gonna carve out the time for doing the rest, which means I'm gonna base my life on just the podcast, on the YouTube thing that I'm doing, on all the social media things that I'm doing, and then I'm gonna carve out all the time that I just need for doing my homework, doing things for school, just tidying up my room and all those things. So it's actually kind of the opposite, because a lot of people think that you're just having your normal life, this is your basis quite, and then on this basis there is just something else, and this something else is going to be your hobbies and whatever you're willing to do. For me, it's then going to be the podcast, but actually it's kind of the other way around. Like, there's the podcast, which is the basis, and then there is time for everything else. At least this is what Seth Godin was talking about, and I think it definitely makes sense. So, the second thing is going to be meditation, and meditating every morning. I'm not meditating every morning. I'm meditating actually every evening because it works better for me. Waking up and meditating, it's going to take just quite a lot of time off of my schedule, which is something that I kind of do not really like to have. But on the other side, it also makes sense, because you're priming yourself for the day. You're probably going to just be able to just have a better day just because you've meditated in the morning and all those things. So it definitely makes sense. But it also, on the other hand, makes sense if you're doing it in the evening, so that you're calming yourself down, so that you just get a little bit of, of a calmer state, so that you actually are able to sleep as well. And I think it is also just a pretty nice thing for your sleeping schedule or sleeping rituals or sleeping rhythm as well, because it's going to be one of these like habits, You're meditating and then you're going to go to bed. It is like your body knows after you've meditated, you're then going to go to bed, which makes your body probably feel sleepy and feel tired and all those things. But yeah, which is actually something that I've been talking about like quite often before. But as they say, meditation is a practice where you use techniques to train your attention and awareness. And as I've been actually reading that, I think meditation is actually a really, 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 really good thing to do, especially because it is about just attention and awareness. I don't know, but this might also be one of the reasons why I kind of feel like about myself, I'm not truly sure if this is actually the truth or whatnot, but I kind of feel like that I'm pretty aware of my surroundings in terms of the reaction, which is actually something that's pretty natural to me. Like when something would hit me, I would actually be able to kind of ditch that because of my reaction and those things, but I'm not quite sure about that. Especially also compared to other people, if this is the case for other people as well, like, I don't know, like I haven't had a study on myself and all those things. But I also think awareness in terms of recognizing other people, recognizing that some other people are feeling good or bad or whatnot, maybe, but I'm really not quite sure. But of course, I guess it really is about attention, because if you're having to sit down for 10 minutes, which is in the first few times you're meditating, it's gonna feel so fucking horrible. And I actually, I actually do want you to meditate actually, because I think it is something that would work for quite a lot of people. But I know on the other hand, there's just also a lot of people that say like, okay, I don't have to do it. And this is also fine. If you truly know that you don't have to do it, that it is just a waste of time for you, then please don't do it, because it wouldn't make too much sense, at least at my point of view. And it's also going to make you mentally calm and emotionally stable, which is one of the, as they say, ultimate goals of meditation. And I think it also is a good thing, because it makes sense. Being emotionally stable is something that a lot of people would need and are happy to have. And also being mentally calm, especially when it is about stressful situations, when it is about just all those things, all those things that are happening in our lives. But yeah, an example for a daily meditation practitioner is Oprah. And it's according to Healthline, which is on one hand, I think it is a pretty cool website because it is talking about such a lot of things that are related to health, whether it is about nutrition, whether it is about diet, whether it is about exercising. It is a really, really amazing website. But on the other hand, I also kind of feel like that sometimes it is not always that right what they are publishing in terms of, is it correct? Is it the truth? Is it actually the case? I'm not always quite sure about that, but they say that it is lengthening your attention span and reduces stress, so meditating. And just because I've also highlighted the guided morning, which is probably going to be a guided meditation, check out Headspace. Headspace is actually also suggested by Tim Ferriss. He was also using it, and he knows a lot of people that are using it and or have been using it. And I think it's also been the app that I've started my meditation practice or my meditation schedule as well. And it is a really, really, really great website, especially just because it is also free. So not every course or not every guided meditation is free, but a bunch of them. And it's definitely enough to just get started and to also keep going. Like, I've been meditating for if you're starting a new habit, please write down when you have started it. It is just so crucial. It really is, especially after years and years and years, because I don't fucking know when I started actually meditating, which is something bad, because I would like to know. I would really like to know when I started. But I guess I don't know, it must be a year ago, maybe a little bit more, but I'm really not quite sure about that. Also cold showering. I don't know when I just fucking started that. The third one is maybe a really obvious one, but it is having a healthy breakfast. Having a healthy breakfast now depends on what you consider being healthy. If you consider, oats and milk and whatnot healthy. But yeah, please do search for healthy diets and or healthy breakfast ideas on your own. I do not actually want to spread that too much just because diet and health and diet, so the combination of health and diet, so eating healthy and whatnot, it is definitely something really subjective also to your body and your metabolism and your just thoughts as well. So please look these things up on your own, but please have a healthy diet. Something that it's probably going to consist of is a lot of vegetables and also a lot of fruits. So it's just going to turn out to a lot of vitamins. It's of course not vitamins. Fuck. Vitamins, whatever. You know what I'm referring to. But and also a lot of minerals, which is really crucial for health. And I think this is something that everyone knows and maybe even everyone should know. But I'm not quite sure that. Plan your day, because if you're not doing that, you get lost, which is something that happens to me quite often, which is then gonna result in wasting quite a lot of time, which is then going to be a reason for waking up earlier, which is then going to be a reason for actually sleeping less, basically. Unless I'm actually able to get to bed early enough, which is something that I sometimes do not really preference, but something that I should be doing. So just have a plan. Maybe you're going to write it down in a journal, maybe you're going to have it as a spreadsheet, whatever you might be using. Have a plan for your day, at least in terms of a to-do list, in terms of whatever you're having to do on this particular day. Write it down, because you're probably gonna maybe forget something if you're not writing it down, and or especially if it is not a habit yet. If it is a habit, you're probably gonna remind yourself on those things, but if it is not, then it's probably gonna be a little bit more difficult to remind yourself on those things. Something that I'm actually really happy about that, so I'm not having a plan. I still believe that having a plan for your day is probably going to be something that's really important. Also, one of the reasons why I pointed out the whole habit thing, because I'm tending not to forget about things. Sometimes I actually do. Sometimes I actually do forget about. It's then not going to be about just making a podcast or just doing something, but it is, for example, something really minor, like publishing the fucking podcast, which is going to result in me being really fucked up, because it is such a small, tiny, minor thing, but it definitely fucks my day just because the episode is then not up. It is then not available for people, and just at this day. And I'm willing to do a certain episode on a certain day, or a certain amount of episode on a certain day. And when I'm not doing that, I'm getting pissed off, because it is just like my mini goals during the days. But yeah, the next one is the 80-20 rule. You might know the 80-20 rule. At my point of view, it is just a really great rule. and it says that that 80% of outcomes are a result of 20% of activities, which is like, okay, tidying up my room, which is 100%, is done mostly in 20% of the time. 80% of the time is then going to result in 20% of the other, like, really small things that I'm having to pick up and all those things. Like, tidying up my room so that it actually looks clean is going to take me 20% of the time. But it's not going to be cleaned up fully, it's only going to be cleaned up for 80%, but it is still enough if you're thinking about it. So you save time, emotional energy, and more when you purposefully put in that 20% with everything you have. When you focus on less or on just one big thing at a time, it could also help minimize procrastination as you may not feel as overwhelmed, which is something that I think can be true, but it also depends on what you like to be doing. Just because some people just like to do multiple things. It is also the case for me. Like, I wouldn't like to only have the podcast. I just really feel the need of having the podcast and having all the other social media sites. I'm basically trying maybe to fulfill myself in all the ways that I'm thinking. Like, talking is something that I actually like to do, even though sometimes it's a little bit fucked up, and sometimes I actually force myself to just maybe talk too fast or maybe be too fast and all those things. But I also just like to design, and Instagram is a really great platform for designers and putting out aesthetic stuff, and LinkedIn is cool just for information purposes. And of course, there's also going to be some things that I'm just doing to kind of have the full spectrum of things. It's not going to be about fulfilling myself, especially like, I don't know, let's talk about LinkedIn. It is nothing that I'm too kind of passionate about, I would say, but I'm still doing it. Like, actually, still, it is really fun, especially having those slides and whatnot. It's pretty cool, or it can be pretty cool. The next one is schedule tasks on your calendar. It may be worth, which is, as they say, I think, a study, it may be worth a try, as only 41% of things on to-do lists are ever actually done, according to a survey done by LinkedIn in May 2012. So it actually is the case that to-do lists aren't the best thing to do. Still, as I said before, for maybe not forgetting about things. So just, I don't know, I think it's just going to be about writing it down to not forget things, at least at my point of view. But scheduling tasks on your calendar might be something that might be cool for you, might work for you, but I'm not quite sure about that, because it's also depending on what type of person you are. If you like to schedule your tasks and schedule your days, or if there's actually an assistant that is doing that for you, and all just different sorts of things. The next one is allocate time for email. They say that email is one of these things and it is actually something that a lot of people have been talking about. So emails are one of these things that not a lot of people actually like to be doing. It is more like a thing you have to be doing, and it's not really fun. You're not really passionate about it, and it's also not pretty cool. I have to say, I can't emphasize with that because I'm not writing a lot of emails, and when I'm writing an email, it's going to be just for school purposes, when somebody needs some data or whatnot. It's going to be because of that. When I'm not using email, I'm kind of most of the time using WhatsApp. I'm also not texting a lot in terms of text messages, like SMS and whatnot. But yeah, but what they actually say that you should allocate a certain time for doing that. And you shouldn't be doing it like, okay, I'm just doing it like 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there and 1 minute there, because it's not going to work out. Have a block of email time, which is going to result in maybe just an hour going through the emails, and then that's fucking it for the day. Of course, but as they say, the main point is that refreshing and scrolling your email every 10 minutes isn't productive for anyone. Doing this could help you boost productivity levels and focus on more important tasks. So each day, the average office worker is said to receive 121 emails, so that your day isn't spent checking and replying to emails. Allocate a specific time for it and stick to that time in the schedule. But as I'm just thinking about it, it's probably sometimes going to be not that nice, since some business partners, or since some people that you're working with are not having just the time for exactly replying to you in this certain time space. So if you just actually are in a conversation with somebody, unless you actually kind of, when you're getting an email, just hop on the phone instead, so that you're actually having the phone call and not having to deal with writing emails, which is, I guess, actually understandable, just because emails is so slow and writing in general is so slow. And just talking is way faster and it's way more efficient, at least at my point of view, Just my point of view. But the next thing, make time for things you value. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We all need some time to, as I always say, actively rest, for example. If you just value going for a walk, if you value going to just ride your bicycle and all those things, just make up time for that. Because it is really important, I think, for your overall well-being, for your overall happiness, and also for your overall, I don't know, feeling good, happiness, and all those things. Like, it really is important to just have a balanced life between those things that you like to be doing, those things that you're passionate about, those things that you somehow have to be doing, and all these other kinds of things. Still, I kind of really think that shouldn't be the thing that you actually really are passionate about. Shouldn't this be your work? Shouldn't this be what you're doing for 8 hours or even more a day? Because I'm thinking a lot about that. Because it's like really fucked up in society. You're seeing really often that people are doing something they're not too passionate about, so that they're actually able to do what they are actually passionate about. Like, okay, I'm gonna have a business so that I'm able to finance the other thing that I'm willing to do. And it is like, yeah, I understand that. But why shouldn't you just kind of spend less, and therefore don't need as much money as you need at this point in time, and do the other thing full time, which is making you really happy? What about that? What about that? You can be doing that. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it is such a big thing, some sort of, if you know what I mean. So yeah, still, make up time for things you really, really enjoy and are really important to you. Whether it is spending time with your family and all those things, like, you have to have time for that, I guess. The 9th one, and it is actually 15, and I'm fairly slow today. I'm really fairly slow, so I might be speeding it up a little tiny bit. Unplug periodically. It's gonna be about just not being connected all the time, and I might have, as I think, Kevin Hart dropping off the phone when he comes home. It is actually something that Kevin Hart is doing. He's dropping off his phone every single day when he comes home, and then there's no phone for the just rest of the day, basically, because he's having to be connected all the fucking time during the day. And so when he comes home to his family, it is not time, or there shouldn't be any time for checking your emails and all those things, because then it is family time. It's probably also going to be about knowing basically having a barrier between work and your private life, some sort of. And yeah, I think it is important. And this is but definitely also something that comes up to your self-awareness, because if you notice that you're not feeling really good if you're coming home and you're just still spending time just working and whatnot, then please don't do it. But if you, on the other hand, kind of feel bad or when you're not doing something at home for your work, then please do it, It always comes up to self-awareness. It always comes up to what is working for you. The next thing, I'm gonna just quickly talk about it, exercise. You should just exercise. I wouldn't necessarily say that you should be exercising like 7 days a week for 3 hours or something. No, not really. I think that 3 times a week, especially for beginners, especially for some people that are not used to daily exercising or even just regular exercising in terms of consistent exercising, then just, 3 times a week for an hour, it is totally fine. It really is. Having a full body workout on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so that they're actually having some time on the weekend for, going hiking and all those things. And don't forget about cardio. It's not only about just having those muscles and whatnot. Really not. The 11th one is read often. It is something that I'm talking about often because I don't necessarily think that everyone should be reading, because it's not something that everyone likes to be doing, or everyone it's not going to work for everyone, because some people are really poor readers, and of course there's going to be information in those books. There really is, and there's a ton of great information in books, and I really also think about going through another book and reading through another book, just because it is so incredibly valuable what you can get out of those books. On the other hand, I also have to say that there's just such a lot of information on the web as well. You can look up a lot of things, probably 80% of the things, and 20% are then going to be some subjective opinions or some subjective thoughts from the authors. Yeah, still think about that, Think about it. The 12th one, engage in a hobby. And I probably written like the job, since it is a third of your life or of our life. Yeah, why isn't your hobby your job? Think about that. The 13th one, journal. Journaling can help improve your emotional intelligence as you're forced to be more reflective and make sense of your emotions by writing them down. This means you'd be more self-aware and mindful, and as a result better able to interact with others, just because you're then also going to be able to emphasize with other people as well on a better level, on a higher level. I don't actually know. The 14th one is one that I'm not quite sure about. So journaling can be done by hand, but it could also just be doing it on the computer. If I would actually be journaling, I think that I would using just pen and paper, because I don't know, I kind of have a feeling that it would be working better for me. But as I said, it's going to be about self-awareness. It's going to be about knowing what is best for you. So figure that out. The 14th one is motivate yourself. Yeah, do it. There's nothing to just add there. And 15th one, which is actually one that I also really enjoyed, carry a notebook. You never know when inspiration of course, inspiration will strike. Definitely. I've actually had some times where I haven't been able to write down things, and I think I've then forgotten about it, which is fucked up. Which really is fucked up, unfortunately. But so just please carry around a notebook. It is totally fine. It's not just heavy or something, or it shouldn't be heavy. Just a really small one so that you're able to note down some thoughts, some inspiration, whatever. Whether you're actually just, thinking about some ways how you could improve just something about yourself, and or just some ideas for work and all those things. Like, it's, I think, always going to be good. But yeah, I guess this is actually going to be the end of the episode. And I really have to say, if I go through an article beforehand and highlight some things and think about some things that I could be saying, it is working way better. This might also be one of the reasons why such a lot of really big, quote-unquote, YouTubers are scripting their fucking videos. Like, a really lot of YouTubers are scripting their videos, which is nothing bad, which is something that I can understand since, it works also for me. So again, something that I've actually recognized by doing things. So I really am an advocate of doing things instead of only learning. Like, of course, it makes sense. Still, learning is nice, and learning is something that a lot of people get caught up by, and all those things. But yeah, I'm such in a good mood or something. So I'm going to see you the next time. I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself on how you're going to be remembered, which basically going to mean being a nice person, and then also going to be remembered as a nice person. I'm still having three other questions for you. The first one is, why are you here? The second one is, what are you trying to change? And the third one is, what is bothering you the most? And these three questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, since a lot of companies started out with solving something that really pissed them off in the first place. To not be pissed off by this particular thing, obviously. But yeah, I'm going to see you the next time. Please consider subscribing to the podcast, as it's actually there. It's so kind of, never mind. I'm going to see you the next time.